This is a review of the Hoka Anacapa Breeze Mids, which is a non-waterproof, breathable, mid-height, hybrid style hiking shoe or running shoe. Why did I want to try them? I've been on a bit of a quest over last summer and coming into this year to find a replacement for what is probably my all-time trekking and hiking shoe. That shoe is the Merrell Ultralight Knit Mid. Merrell discontinued these, so it's been really hard to find some kind of replacement. When I saw the Anacapa Breeze Mids, I thought, well, this could be a potential replacement for the Merrells. The reason why I want a mid is because 2 years ago I had a really bad ankle injury. I tried the Merrells and I liked having the ankle protection. This is not for support, it's for protection. So having that padding when you've got an injured ankle, slamming the bone into rocks and things like that is pretty unpleasant. And I found that hiking out in the Rockies for the past 2 years, we have a lot of scree and a lot of talus, and having that protection around my ankles is just really nice. The problem is that it's really hard to find a shoe that's both breathable and a mid. Almost every shoe on the market that's a mid has a Gore-Tex membrane, and those just lead to overheating. They stay wet for longer than if they're breathable once you do get them wet. This shoe just looked like a pretty good candidate. I've never used Hoka's before, so I was testing out several things at once. The Hoka design for the sole, and then just the overall design of the shoe. First of all, I really like the overall design of the upper. I think it's really good. It's really comfortable. You can get a pretty precise fit and adjustment to the upper part of the shoe. If you compare this shoe to something like an Ultra or a Topo, which is more of the anatomical design, this is more of a standard design last, so it's not that wide anatomical design. It's a pretty standard shoe fit, and I think it's been good so far. Also, it's very breathable, which I appreciate. It's a very comfortable shoe to walk in on trail. There's no way to really explain it properly, but it walks really nicely. And I had no issues with blisters right out of the box or anything like that. A lot of mids, you'll end up getting blisters on your Achilles really quickly. This shoe somehow avoids that whole problem. I haven't had any blisters in it. That being said, I haven't done a massive amount of mileage in these shoes. I've done a couple of day hikes, 2 overnight trips, but not a massive amount of mileage where I'd really sort of test that out. And it's also very light for a mid. This is a size 11 and it comes in right at 16 ounces. If you look at something like a leather boot, you're talking more like 26 ounces, so 10 ounces heavier. And if you look at something more like just a normal trail runner, it's more in the 10 to 12 ounces. Some are less, but let's call 10 to 12 the normal. Your weight penalty is about 3 or 4 ounces for that upper. Now, honestly, these shoes are not for me. There's nothing specifically that I can say, you know, they're uncomfortable or I think there's issues with durability or anything like that. The problem I have with these shoes is more of a use case. I'm not really sure who they're designed for, and they definitely aren't for what I'm gonna use them for. So when I want a mid, it's more for off-trail hiking when I'm in talus and things like that. And the problem with these is that because they have such a wide sole, they're not the most precise shoe in the world. I feel like I'm on stilts in a way and kind of falling off them sometimes. The other thing is that they're quite wide, not in terms of where your foot actually is, but the sole comes out quite wide. Really not that precise, and you can sort of feel the foam flexing under your toes quite a bit. They're definitely not the kind of shoes that I would want to wear in really challenging scrambling. I would have no confidence. If I was going to compare them to a scrambling specific shoe, they're the extreme in terms of precision. If I compare them to my gold standard mid, these shoes also are significantly less wide in terms of the sole sticking out over the last. So these shoes are not as precise as the La Sportiva approach shoes. They are miles ahead of the Hokas. There could be some kind of hybrid between the two of these, which would be amazing. If you compare the two of these shoes, the Hokas are just much more massive and less precise. The other issue I have with the Hokas is the sole. They have a Vibram sole, but if you look at it, there's really not that much Vibram or rubber there. And there's this massive area in the middle with no rubber at all. It's pretty beaten up. I'm walking on rocks and talus and stepping on sort of unsure footing. And when you get this foam, this is pure foam on the bottom, you just don't feel as confident as when you've got the actual sole and rubber on rocks. It just turns out that you have pretty limited contact. If it's on the foam, I just don't like the feel. The last issue that I have with these shoes is because of how bulky the upper is, it's tricky or hard to find a gaiter that meshes well with the shoe. You basically need to get a very large gaiter. I prefer a much smaller trail style of gaiter. Definitely can't use these with really low cut ankle gaiters like Dirty Girl gaiters. I used the OR through gaiters with my Merrells and they worked very well. If you're not a gaiter wearer, they could be fine for you. Or I've also worn them with pants and they're fine with pants. So pants definitely kind of act like gaiters too in certain situations. Can I recommend or not recommend these shoes? It's really a question of what you're looking for, and I don't know where they fit in terms of a use case. If you're gonna be hiking on trail, they're great. But if you're gonna be hiking purely on trail, you don't really need the mid or that ankle protection. So you're probably just better off going with a normal pair of Hokas, whatever the popular Hokas are, if you appreciate the thick cushioning of Hokas. If you're hiking on trail, it doesn't really matter either that you don't have all of the rubber through the middle of the sole. Overall, I think they're really comfortable shoes. They're really true to the Hoka design and philosophy, but are they right for off-trail hiking? I would say no. Are they the perfect thing for on-trail hiking? Maybe. If you really like the trail runner feel, but you like having that ankle protection, then they could be a great shoe. If you are interested in knowing which shoes I am using now, it's both the TX4s and TX3s by La Sportiva. I have reviews of both of these shoes, so I'll link them right here.